activity early on as everybody wanted to get into the early break. It's the sort of cliched sawtooth profile for the riders today. That looks like, well, it looks like my heart rate trace would be if I had to ride along these roads for any length of time. Relatively short race at 162 kilometers, but there's barely a flat road in it. And I think the longest gap between bergs today is just a smidgen under 20 kilometers. It's just up and down throughout the day. They hit that finishing circuit with 73 kilometers to go. 3 full laps of a 20 kilometer circuit, but just over 3.5 laps in total. 4 climbs on the lap. And the final work route up through the S-bends into Overijse at the end of 162 kilometers. Who's going to get the glory today? Well, significant investment for the early move and a decent number of riders here from the lower ranked teams. A couple of squads putting a couple of riders into the move, and our 6-man breakaway been toiling manfully to great effect indeed, and an average speed which has been flirting with the record, naturally enough, as is the habit in recent classics racing, indeed recent bike racing at all levels. The speeds have ramped up in recent seasons, and the fastest ever edition of this race coming a couple of years ago. Benoit Cosnefroid taking the glory on that occasion at an average speed of 45.566 kilometers per hour, and that's been close on the average speed so far today. A few climbs that might temper that one between now and the finish line, but then again we'll have the extra investment from those teams and squads behind. Maybe extra intensity will lead to a record speed today. At any rate, it has been a very impressive piece of work so far from our 6-rider team, including the breakaway group, including John Achille, 22-year-old from the United States of America, with the Tartaletto Isarek squad. He's got his teammate Fabrice Lefebvre along for Aldani and Vervac are about to be closed down by Tim Wellens. Wellens is going raiding here. He's decided to hit out early. Has no real idea of his form. He said he was coming here to support the others. And Vermeers looks to be all present and correct at the moment. Cosnefroid a little bit further back. But this is UAE Team Emirates XRG. Well, the blue touch paper, if it was presented to the bunch by the Bahrain Victoria squad, it has been lit by the UAE Team Emirates XRG, the Belgian national road race champion, and Groupama FDJ are up for a little bit of this. And the peloton now snaking in its wake, hoping, many of them in there, hoping that there's a little bit of a let-up in the pace. There's not going to be, because Vermeers has hit the front. And he puts a couple of bike lengths between himself and the Groupama FDJ riders just behind him. Have a little look back and see if any further fractures. Still a big group. It's caused all sorts of shenanigans. Camille Charret, one of the 5 teenagers in this group today. Down at the back of the peloton for the Kofida squad. Desperately hoping for a little bit of an easing of the tempo. It's unlikely to happen anytime soon. Frantic efforts to get back involved. It's Balint Feldhofer, the Bahrain victorious rider. Son of Dolby. Another man in a little bit of difficulty. Alexander Meyer, Russian national time trial champion, is happy enough to just give a little bit of extra encouragement to Feldhofer, one of 2 Hungarians in the Bahrain victorious lineup. Better known of the 2, of course, being Attila Valter. Another man that is, if he's got the form, could be one for the race today. Oh, there's nothing more dispiriting and disheartening than going absolutely flat out as much power as you can get into the pedals, and watching the peloton just disappearing away in front of you. Bjerre's got control once more. Peloton considerably thinned out, but the gradient is to the advantage for now at any rate. But there's not much time, is there, between the Hertstraat and the Moskstraat? More cobbles await. Moskstraat, at one stage it was a sort of a patchwork quilt, wasn't it, of cobbles and little bits of asphalt that had been put down by farmers and locals when they thought it would be nice to have a nice smooth road. But of course that's kind of at odds with what we as cycle race supporters and fans wanted, so they decided they would completely restructure it and put the cobbles back down and make sure it was properly presented as sort of just the sort of road that you might encounter in a bit of Belgian road racing. So it's very much in the character and heritage of Belgian racing, and the Moskstraat beckons for these riders. These riders being the ones up front, an advantage down to 46 seconds. It's amazing how quickly the peloton can just erode and pretty much eradicate the advantage of a fast-moving group, albeit a group that have been out front at this point for well over 100 kilometers. 6 riders still working in combination. And was there a little bit of a conflict between Desde? Desde has shown himself to be a very strong, powerful rider. Will he be the one to be able to make be last man standing from that break? Are we going to see any little bit of a lack of cooperation between them? Total Energy starting to get organised on the left-hand side of your picture. So moving across into the centre in the white jerseys. And then those distinctive blue, pink and purple stripes on the sleeves of the Unibet Rose Rockets squad. It's hard to say, isn't it? But I mean, it is fundamentally distinct. You pick them out from space, and the Unibet Rose Rocket squad have a rider up the road. I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm thinking about the Moskstraat. Just 500 meters. But look at the average. And there's, as you can see, created a selection of famous world champions, including Eddy Merckx, Marianne Vos, Peter Sagan and Tom Bonen, all represented there. Across the murals and onto the cobbles. Just over half a minute advantage. If you're going to contend in this race, you need to be close to the front right now, because Bjerre, everything he's got left is going into the start of this one. Now, this one's slightly different in character. As you can see, it's more of a ski slope, and it's going to ramp up, and it's at its steepest at the top. Vermeers goes. Who can follow with him? Well, Wellens, for all that his layoff might have dented his top end, and he just eases up there, and I think he had a mind to give Florian Vermeers a little bit of space. He's feeling the pinch there a little bit, Tim Wellens, or maybe he was just trying to create a little bit of daylight. Didn't quite work. Well, they're staying in here. No sign of Benoit Cosnefroy. I found it surprising. It could be just... so it could again be speaking very soon, and could be a folly to commit this early, but it may just be that it's all about Florian Vermeers for the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad today. Cosnefroy down towards the back end. Meanwhile, what's that done to the breakaway up front with their advantage? Just a quarter of a minute. And these riders at the back starting to feel the pinch a bit. Jonah Killy and his teammate Fabrice Lefebvre from the Tartaletto Isarek squad find themselves floundering and about to be reclaimed by the front of the main peloton. Inside 50 kilometers to go in Brabantse Pijl 2026, and our group of 6 riders has fractured down to just a handful, and it's down to just a handful of seconds. The main peloton is going racing now. Florian Vermeers is up for fun today, and he and Tim Wellens have caused all sorts of consternation in that main peloton. Still a decent number of riders, and more coming back here to assist. Not quite a definitive selection formed just yet. From a race that still has a decent number of riders involved as they come down to the base of the final climb, 1,500 meters from the line. But as we've seen most recently last year, of course, you can get much smaller groups assembling at the bottom of that final hill to decide the overall honours. Final honours, and indeed Tim Wellens would like to contribute as best he can, so he's retained a position, about 30th, something like that, rider. Cosnefroid was behind him though, and that's a worry, isn't it? Cosnefroid is further back than he needs to be for that team. Meanwhile, Leknesund is gone. Leknesund, who I have on my list as a contender, certainly for the Uno X Mobility squad. Would have been there, I might have expected him as their preferred option. Anton Charmig as well for them. Frederick de Versnes. Selection of options, but Leknesund he likes this race. Been 9th a few years ago. And on to the Holsteiner. And they come thick and fast, don't they? The Bergs, and that's what we love about this race. It's just one after the other after the other. Arancini now a few places in front of young Italian Luca Gaimi. These riders are somewhat delayed. Now Mauro Schmidt, for many the pre-event favourite, decides to see what some of the others are made of. Lefebvre is no more in terms of being out front. Schachmann, though, is very much part of this one. So now Quick Step play their card, and it's Max Schachmann that has decided to race clear. First time appearance in this race. 47 to go. He's starting to hoover up breakaway riders and drag a rider or two clear with him. Who's going to respond to that one? Certainly it is a danger man. Kristoffersen and Kamenek showing themselves to be the strongest riders from the breakaway, so chapeau to them. 2 Tartaletto Isorex riders now, and both of the Beat Cycling Club riders are back in the fold, for now at any rate, from Dissel and Michael Koppens. And it's 6s and 7s all over the road at the moment. Michael Andre further back than I might have expected, actually, I have to say. Danish rider has experience of this race. Indeed, he was 12th a couple of years ago, so I thought Honoré might be slightly more, perhaps one to watch. Leknesund on a charge here. Still plenty of riders available from plenty of teams to close a gap or two. Oh, mind you, I'm not sure that Lotto rider is going to be able to do anything more about closing this one, so they stay invested here. So now we have 6 for glory. Just how much daylight are they going to be able to put between themselves and the peloton? A little bit of a rethink establishing in that peloton. I wouldn't exactly say they've stalled, but it was a significant gain. Everything counts in large amounts, doesn't it, at this point of the proceedings? So just moments to the foot of the penultimate assault on the S-bend climb. Arriving into Overijse. NSM trying to fix things a little bit. Gregoire, every time the road rises, happy enough to stick his nose in the wind. Charmig having a little anxious look over his shoulder. Milan Lanhova, thrilled to be here, I suspect. Tiber del Grosso, loftier ambitions than just presence in the move. Wants to do something with it. Kuznavois, equally too. UAT Memoritz's XRG squad want to create a winning scenario. The EF Education Easy Post squad assembling with numbers close to the front. The climb starts to grip. The tarmac between them diminishes, albeit the time gap probably is about the same. It's a tenuous thing at the moment. Is that 24 seconds? Even, I suspect, on a rising road, it won't quite be that. Gregoire's languid style betrays the effort. Charmig gives us a greater, more accurate, I think, description via his face. His visage, I think, reveals the true effort being made. Trying to jump across this gap, it's a tempting looking one. 6 strong riders working well together are not going to make it easy. Well, they get the bell. Will they still be in front when they reach the foothills of the final climb in 19 kilometers from now? Tiber del Grosso, I think, would be very grateful to have a teammate up here. It's perfectly played by them. So textbook stuff so far. They're the only squad with multiple representation in this 6-rider group, albeit a long, long way from making any suggestions that this is going to be enough, as riders attempt to clip across what looks like an inviting gap. Is this Johannik? It's just arriving in. Make it 7 up front. Swelling in numbers. Plenty of teams here. Plenty of reason for continued cooperation among this group. Unibet Rose Rockets place a rider up front, continuing their great season. Johannik is just going to take a moment. That was a huge effort he made on the climb and indeed just after the climb, to try and join. Objective achieved. But will he be of any value whatsoever to this group before they come to the next climb? Speaking of which, we're now on to the final loop of 20 kilometers in what's been a all-action, as I say, it's been an all-action edition of Brabantse Pijl so far. Next climb in prospect, the Hertstraat. They've got a couple of kilometers to compose themselves. They don't have is the luxury of gathering their thoughts and their lungs, really. Their advantage is not a significant one. Charmig fully invested. Kuznavois looking strong. Now, counters coming out of the main peloton. They got a rider up front. Fine, fancy making a little bit of a... making it two up front. Well, numbers. And... just clip it off left, right and centre. Andreas Leknesund has... it's not for the want of trying. He has really thrown himself at this bike race today, hasn't he? The Norwegian champion. And he's got every right to invest here, so long as they're not just offering a little bit of a carrot to the rest of the peloton. The closer that peloton gets to him, the less any of his efforts on the front will be to the advantage of the Uno X squad, who still have Charming up front. Del Grosso at the front, anxious look over his shoulder. He's right to be anxious. Long way from a winning advantage. Leknesund still piling on the coal. Your guess is as good as mine. Suspect Charmig is not the favourite son. We have two in this counter. Maybe the play is about presenting their favoured rider to the front. Is it diverseness? Just loitering in the wheels just behind Andreas Leknesund. Mauro Schmidt made his way safely into the main peloton. Frustratingly for him, it is in arrears of this bike race. Not out of it just yet, though. That is a tenuous advantage for your leaders out front. Anton Hermans knows how to play it, as indeed does Florian Vermeers. And those riders happy enough to tap along in the wheels. Mind you, positioning, well, is it as critical and as difficult? Well, that peloton maybe not quite as big in size. Counter behind is, well, still dangling off the front of the peloton and dangling behind the breakaway group. They hit the Hertstraat for the final time of asking. Time to make the power play. And Hove hits the front of the lead group. 22-year-old Belgian rider. Giving what he can, but you sense that there's a little bit of impetus gone out of this one. The counter-attackers have just about been closed down by the rest of that main peloton, so the advantage of our riders out front, not a winning one. Indeed, it's problematically difficult. The Muskelstrat, though, is going to reveal a lot. Watch for the spring-loaded attacks out of the main peloton. Hertstraat behind them. The next appointment is the Muskelstrat, followed by the Holsteiner, and then the S-Pen, the Espocht Overijse, at the foot of that final ramp to the line. Just about 1,500 meters from the finish of this race. Way to go before we get to that. A little bit of climbing to be dealt with. And the characteristic of the front of that peloton starting to change a little bit. Other riders starting to come into play. Teams have delayed their efforts to what they hope is the best possible moment. Now is the time to play the card. NSN with plenty of firepower today. It's a big effort, and it's been a sustained effort from Marco Frigo today. Jens Verbrucke is handily placed. If Education Easy Post of Lucas Neruka. Nicely. Here comes Mauro Schmidt even moving up on the outside. So say Chris Nyland starting to try and move up a little bit. Not indeed. Stella. Ugo Ull knows this race well. His first participation, 2011. What have you got left for the Moscow Strat? 2 and a bit kilometers away, and a sense that this is the closest thing you're going to get to a phony warp before the finish of this bike race, because, wow. Send the motorbike away. Just how close is that motorbike? They're going to tighten up the shot as best they can, of course, from our camera person on the back of that motorcycle. Gives you a better idea, doesn't it? Yes, it is. There is a bit of distance here. As much distance as you could possibly deal with and still be able to give us an image, I think. To 21 seconds. They'll need more. Moscow Strat beckons now, but you can you still have to ride as hard as you can all the way to the foot of the climb and hope that your legs will stand up to the effort. And, no surprise that it's De Bruyne that's making the huge effort on the front at the moment. Del Grosso's still going to ride through here. Everyone needs to continue to ride. On to 17 seconds as Marco Frigo makes a huge effort. Got Jens Verbrugge to assist. Chris Nylands has just arrived up as well for the NSN squad. Lurking in the background, the likes of Lorien Vermeers. Well, is it the right play for the Alpecin Premier Tech squad? And the Thibaut Del Grosso. He's in prime position heading to the penultimate climb of the day. Edward Prades, oldest man in the bike race, but 5th in line there as well in that main peloton. Inside 6 to go. We've dealt with every single climb in this bike race, bar the last assault on the S-Bends. The S-Bocht Overijse is the final challenge. Is it a challenge too far? Because Chris Nylands is doing a manful job. And look at Mauro Schmid, just kind of gravitated almost by osmosis as he worked his way towards the front of the peloton. Jaco Alula Star not out of this one just yet. 21 seconds. How much do they need approaching the final climb? This is going to be nip and tuck stuff. Well, the sheer weight of numbers in that main peloton behind would, you suggest, mitigate against the chances of our breakaway riders surviving. However, how many riders in that chase group behind will have the legs when they come to the final climb? Continuing to give a great account of him. Here comes Leknesund around the outside. Charming's still involved up front. Not so sure how useful he's going to be. They need to present their man in perfect and prime position into the final battle. Charming, I don't think, is going to be of much value. Well, he's still continuing to rotate. It's finally poised. Inside 5 to go. 162 kilometers in total today. Got a bunch of about, what, maybe 40 riders? Plenty of firepower in there. Pick out Shackman down the line as well. We know Florian Vermeers is was perfectly positioned. See if we can find that white jersey. Two riders down the back here. That gives you a sense of just how much they're pressing on. Floris van Tricht at the back of the peloton. Chris Nyland's pretty much on the front. The first two riders. There can be no holding back here. Everyone has to be motivated and invested. Cosnefroy knows he needs every one of his ad hoc teammates in this breakaway group. And Del Grosso knows that he needs to ride through and that he needs the best that he can possibly get out of Ramses de Bruyne at this point as well. Bahrain victorious. Haven't seen too much of them lately. I wonder how Zambanini's feeling. Oh, Mikel, another option for them today. Was 12th across the line 12 months ago. Now knows the race. His second participation. An opportunity for further glory. You don't want to run across the road in between fast-moving pelotons. Gap showing at 14 seconds now. Schmidt puts himself into the line, so I'm not sure it's for him today. One of the riders to the Jacob Alula squad will potentially Alessandro Covi will be one to watch out for today. Also got Dries de Poter, Anders Voldagger, Asbjørn Helmos. Also sneaks a look over his shoulder. Probably doesn't get the signal that he wanted. The gap is coming down. You feel that it is racing certainty, is it? Well, they've got about 700 meters to the foot of that final climb. Everyone's thinking about saving a bit. They all know that that climb is going to be absolutely vital. So the intensity of the efforts on the front just throttled off ever so slightly. Everyone just trying to regain a little bit of strength. It's a folly of a policy, though, but it's almost inevitable. It's a human reaction. We arrive into Overijse and now get set for the S-Bends. Mauro Schmidt invests, presumably on behalf of teammates. Plenty of presence at the front for the Unibet Rose Rocket squad. There's Clement Venturini. Keep an eye out for him. On to the final climb when we reach the S-Bends. De Bruyne will give his all. And the crowds that have stayed down amongst the S-Bends, some have sort of gravitated up towards the finish line to see who gets the win. And it's all together. The main peloton have timed that one and judged it to absolute perfection. Now time to reach out. Who's got the legs under the kite? It's a long way to the line from here, but who's going to risk charging this one down? Sandy Dujardin is a rider to conduit for the Total Energy squad. And who's got the legs and who can possibly hang on for glory today? Well, this is his teammate, Bourgaudot. Mathieu Bourgaudot knows the race, albeit 23rd across the line 12 months ago. He's trying to find a different way, and he's forced splits. The Pinarello Q36.5 team, first to try and fight their way across. Time for the Uno X squad to try something a little bit special. Into the closing stages, Mathieu Bourgaudot is going to be hounded down and closed down. That much seems inevitable. And they're crowding around. It's still a large peloton involved as Pinarello Q36.5 try to go to the line with Maurice. Sandro Maurice, he's going to be swamped and overhauled as the Lotto squad try and assemble and get themselves organised. Prades is thereabouts as well. Is this Edouard Prades going to try and surprise everyone? The Carrera squad, well, no, coming off his wheel and heading for glory today. It's going to be glory for Fuldagger. Fuldagger's going to get up for the Jaco Alula squad. Victory for Jaco Alula. Unexpected but beautiful for all that fact, and the Brabantse Pijl 2026 is claimed by the Jaco Alula squad. The late show all the way to the line, and the Jaco Alula team had the judgment, the strength, and a beautiful victory recorded by the Dane Anders Fuldagger. Huge moment for him.
Let's go, boys.
More to Spain. You have to get more food to Spain.
Good. Okay, we're going to
Stay. We go directly? Or? Yeah, okay. We go directly.
Yeah, happy to go directly. Why not? Got his hands in the air and a huge moment. Fourth in the next classic last week, so good form coming for the Dane Anders Fuldagger, but that's a huge result for him in his career. He's scored some significant successes, but that's, I suspect, indeed, it's quite definitely greatest victory in his short career today. 24-year-old Dane Anders Fuldagger gets up for glory in Brabantse Pijl 2026.
Thank you, Will.
For many, the pre-event favourite, Mauro Schmidt, happy enough to dedicate himself to the interests of Anders Fuldagger, and Fuldagger delivers in spades. There's confirmation of the final finishing order at the conclusion of Brabantse Pijl, with Fuldagger fending off the best that Quentin Hermans, Benoit Cosnefroy, Grégoire Prades, De Versnes, Van Boven, Barcelo, Gilmore and Molinar could possibly offer. The riders up from the early break still had something left on that final climb, giving you a sense of how demanding that final finishing hill is, and indeed how demanding the chase had been, for that the likes of Cosnefroy, Grégoire and others were still able to stay up there, but didn't have anything to answer to the sheer power in the final moments from Anders Fuldagger. Prades hung on for another top result, the oldest rider in the race. And it was in the emerging talent, the 24-year-old from Denmark, Anders Fuldagger. We'll be celebrating long into the night. It's an arduous and a wearying final climb, that one, isn't it? Amazing that Grégoire still had a little bit of something. Cosnefroy too. Prades and a couple of teammates just trying to time it. Hitting the front a little early, others hitting out a little bit too late. Fuldagger piecing it together perfectly. Well, maybe the double finger wag is something we really need to get used to, because that was a really strong effort against a quality field of bike racers. In the end, he had a full bike length and a bit to spare over Maurice. Frustration for UAE. Another great podium finish for Benoit Cosnefroy. A remarkable 5th podium from 7 appearances in this race. He has won it, but he'll be wondering now, should he have maybe kept his powder dry for a little longer? Time for celebrations for